few more. Okay, faculty senate you mentioned. What were some of your duties with it, and what does it entail?
In the Fordham?
Faculty
Yeah.
senate here. I'm sorry.
Here?
Yes.
I've never been involved in the faculty senate here.
Oh, okay. I thought you
That
were.
was at Fordham.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Here, I was on the Senate committee by reason of being AVP. I've attended Senate meetings, full Senate meetings when necessary, but I'm not involved in it. Someone once said to me, I guess it was the year I came back, 86, 87. Towards the end of the year, somebody said, how about getting on the tenure committee? How about putting you on the tenure committee? And I looked and I said, hey, that's unfair. It's unfair to me, and it's unfair to the candidates. I said, I know where there are too many bones buried around here. And then it was right after Degnan had been announced. Somebody came to me and said, would you like to be on the budget committee next year? And to which my response was, if I'm not worthy to be president, I'm certainly not worthy to be on the budget committee. So I've been on one committee, and that was uses of the rec center. Outside of that, no, I think I've done my job. And as I say, I still know where there are too many. And I would have to control my temper more than I think I can. So I don't suffer fools gladly, easily. So I do, committee work in the department, that sort of thing. But otherwise,
Okay, I only have a few more questions for your teaching. Then we'll get to the AVP duties. You're teaching philosophy. What has been your teaching philosophy at the start and to the present day?
it's always been the same. I'm supposed to teach mathematics, which I think I do, but more importantly, I educate. And that's the broader thing, the things we were talking about before. Trying to throw some things out that maybe somebody would get interested in, that sort of thing. And that's always been true of my approach, my teaching. We've revived a friendship. I had a young lady in calculus at Fordham, and she was a psych major, and then I arranged for Father Bill Lawler and myself to give her tutorials in second year because she wanted to get some stat work in and that sort of thing. And we did, and we've always been in contact with her. And Christmas cards mainly. We've renewed the friendship on a closer basis recently in the last couple of years. I've been up to her home. I've met the husband, the family, the whole bit. And at one point we were talking, and she said, there's something about, well, you're responsible for my being where I am. And I said, Marv Resnikoff? Yes, it was the head chairman of psychology at the time, and a good friend of hers. And I said, Marv Resnikoff, not me, She just looked at me, glaring, as only an Italian mother can do, and said, Ed, you are responsible for my being where I am. And that was it. There was no question of fighting this one. I mean, and she said, Marv too, but so, she's now chair of psychology at Fordham, and it's those kind of things that make you feel good. People coming back and saying thank you, or what was the, just even the other ways they do it. My youngest niece, we had a baptism of her youngest son, and we had a hard time finding a parish out in Long Island that was available for us because we wanted to have a mass. And so I sent him to the Jesuit parish. So she went out, and Kirk Reynolds is the pastor, and he showed her and talked, and of course she told him who she was, and he said, oh, I had him. He said, well, at least I passed the course. But this is the kind of comeback and comments that you get, and there's always somebody out there. But
Okay. Commencement and honorary degrees. Have you ever sponsored anybody, and how does the honorary degree process work?
I don't know how it's working nowadays at all. I was obviously much more involved when I was AVP. But that was mainly the president's office that handled that, very much so. Yeah, I think one of the great ones we had here was Millicent Fenwick. She gave the commencement address and honorary degree, and I said to her beforehand, it was at 1 o'clock. I guess it was still in Giant Stadium, and it was 1 o'clock commencement, so we had a luncheon at 11, and I said to her, you have your speech, I'll put it up on the platform, podium. And she said, oh no, Father, she said, I cannot give a talk from a script. She said, I'm dead late. She said, so I said, okay. Well, she got up and gave a talk that no Jesuit could have gotten away with. She just looked at them and said, you are now going forth, and the most important thing you do in your life is picking a mate. And she went on. And powerful as all hell. I mean, she was really good. And it was a great speech. And I think you've seen that, was it Lacey Davenport in Doonesbury, who's based on Millicent, has retired. But Millicent didn't last that long, thank God. But that was a fun year. In those days, we were still cutting corners and saving money, so that the dinner after was the reception afterwards was here. It was back. We didn't go to a hotel or anything like that. It was back in the Pavonia room, and that year, John Thompson, the coach at Georgetown, also received an honorary degree, and he was an old friend of Father Glynn's. So that it was up to me to entertain Millicent, because he was with Thompson, which is not quite the way it should have been. But she was great. She was so much fun at the table, and at some point reached in and pulled out a corncob pipe. And I started, and I said, you remind me of a very good friend of mine. So she sort of looked, I said, Dr. Claire Corbin, business school at Fordham, management marketing. Her husband taught at NYU, management marketing. But Claire was the constitutional person. So when we were revising handbooks, and she was responsible, and she wasn't elected to it or anything, but she was the one who kept things organized, who found the duplications or what have you. So Claire and I became fairly good friends over my 3 years. And she came into my office, first time she came in to see me, and she said, you don't mind if I smoke, do you? Because I had seen her smoke a corncob pipe. So I said, no, provided you answer me one question. So she said, what's that? I said, why? Why a corncob pipe? So she said, I've smoked it for years, and ordinarily it was at home. I did not do it publicly. She said, but several years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it was, Arnold and I became consultants. We were doing a lot of it. And one time we do it regularly for Coca-Cola. So they were down in Atlanta, and she said, do you know what it's like to be in a room, the only woman with 35 men? And I said, well, no, I wouldn't know that. So she said, I had to get attention some way. I began smoking my pipe at meetings. And I think Millicent was the same thing. It was a way of having the eyes look at you. And it did. It was a very workable thing, if you could stand carrying all the paraphernalia for pipes. But next.
Oh, okay. Academic vice president.
Yes.
You told me how you landed here at St. Peter's, which is great. And can you tell me what some of the duties and some of your functions as academic?
Everything. You were in charge of everything, basically. I mean, in the sense that certainly the whole academic area. The budgets at that time, I don't know how they go now, but the budgets at that time, 2/3 of the budget was academic. You were responsible for the budget process. You were responsible when I first came, or before I came, Father Glynn said something about my sitting on the promotion and tenure committees as chair, and I said, no way. I said, I then have to review their decisions and then make my own. I said, no, let them meet by themselves. And so that was a big thing. Faculty relations, big thing as far as I was concerned. Hiring, firing, not much of that, but making sure things were on an even keel. Wandering. I was a great wanderer. I have a bad back, and as a result, always get up after an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes, to walk around a little bit. So it used to be my thing to walk through the dean's complex, the registrar's office, or down, just walk across, go to 51 and walk through a couple of offices and meet people in situ, where they worked. That was the big thing. You had to meet them where they worked. And 1,000 little things. I mean, everything came across your desk. Everything, but everything. And as I say, to a good extent, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the minutiae at that point. I remember once my dad was, he was over 80, well over 80, and I don't know, I had bought a suit, and he asked me, as he always did, how much? And I said, what do you think? Well, he was still back when suits were $60, and even cheap suits at this point were $150. So I gave him some number, and he said, young man, I'm almost 50. You have to learn to watch money. And I looked at him and I said, Pop, what's my job? He said, you're academic vice president. I said, good. I said, I'm responsible for the budget of the academic area at St. Peter's. Oh. I said, 18 million? And you're telling me to be responsible for this kind of thing? So it was that sort of, you get the responsibilities, you come, and you grow into them. One year, 80, 81, it would have been the summer of, I guess it was Labor Day, 81. Father Glynn had an accident down at Seabright. He flipped over and almost broke his neck. And I got the word about an hour later. He was in hospital until mid-November. And at least the way things were set up at that time, I was the acting president with full authority. Obviously, you act according to the mind of the president, but then you find out how people, sometimes you say, oh, come on, I had something during that period. I didn't use the president's office. There was a Jesuit brother who was the secretary, Brother Kavanaugh at the time, and I would go over in the morning. He'd have the mail ready, and I'd go through it, ask him questions. We'd get things done. And I'd go back to my office right across the hall. And I said to my secretary one day, Ann Catamadre, a wonderful woman, would you get maintenance to do such and such? So she made the call on it. Next morning I came in, and I said, has maintenance taken care of that thing? And she said, no. I said, good. I walked across the hall, said to Brother Kavanaugh, do me a favor. He said, what? I said, call maintenance and tell them that the acting president of St. Peter's College would like them to do what the academic vice president of St. Peter's College requested yesterday. 15 minutes. You wonder, are people that? Another time I walked into the registrar's office. It was June. And the windows are wide open. The air conditioning is on in McDermott. The windows are wide open. So I said, what's going on? Well, the vents were not working properly. This is about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I said, did you call maintenance? Oh, yeah, we called them yesterday, Father. I said, has anybody been up? No. Good. Went over to the phone, called Frank Pauletta. I said, Frank, come on over to the registrar's office. Well, he came over, and I said, windows are open. The vents are not working in the air conditioning. They called maintenance yesterday. I said, if it is not repaired in the next half hour, I am closing this office at... Yeah, it was done. It was done. You have to hit people over the head to get something done. And that's been constant. And, with some people, it's a problem. Some people, you're fine. But when you see that, you say, oh, wait a minute, come on. And that's always been a problem around. So I sort of enjoyed authority in those circumstances. But we had a big meeting that time while he was away, and I had presided Michaelmas. I had, the whole bit. I was the president. So, but I enjoyed what I did. I did enjoy it until it began to. I was hitting stone walls. I was getting no's when I should have gotten yeses, or where I was getting yeses before was now picking up no's, and I had done it. So, and then the core curriculum that the committee had made up was very, very thoroughly revised by the faculty senate, and they destroyed it. One of the problems was when I came, there had been a core curriculum committee appointed in '77. Father Harry Burns was chairman of it, and I don't think they ever met. And it was faculty, the Senate had appointed them. So I talked to a number of people, and I talked to the deans, and I sent out a letter. I said, I'm going to appoint a committee for curriculum. I said, let me have your, nominate people. Well, I think out of the faculty of 120, I got 20 responses. And so I sat down with the deans, and we came up with one person from each division, and they were all respected people. And the chairman was Father Frank Keating in theology, who was very well loved and respected by everyone. And they met for a year and a half. But the problem was, I had appointed them. And the faculty, even though their committee didn't function, the faculty senate is now going to show me. And I was not backed. So you say bye. That's when you say goodbye. Or begin thinking of it anyway. But a number of things like that. Cracking down on overloads. According to the handbook, 4 overloads a year, I think, is for the academic year. And I had the registrar make me up a list. I had about 15 members of the faculty who were teaching more than that, overloads. Including the fact, they'd have reduced load for being chair or something else, and then fill it in. So I put the UCASE out, and several did not like it. That wasn't my point. I don't see how you can teach and do that. I think that was one of the things Father Lochran mentioned in his talk on Monday about overload, faculty, and then overload. And he sort of hit it. He didn't bounce it hard enough, because we still have people doing that. Fighting to get salaries written. That was very hard in those days, because we were in bad financial shape. And Father Glynn did tighten it up, but at the expense of maintenance, of adequate administrative support. When I look at some of the offices now, and secretaries tripping over secretaries, and I couldn't even get one assistant. So, those are the kind of things that sort of weigh you down after a while. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. I had a certain amount of fun with the thing. If I hadn't, I wouldn't have stayed around for 6 years. But then I got to the point where, as I say, I wanted my freedom back too, and I enjoy the summers.
Although it was mostly business, did you have any, besides Michaelmas, did you have any other academic leanings?
Well, Faculty Senate Committee was basically the one that, and then occasionally you'd draw, you'd have a meeting with certain people or something like that. I was probably getting around to the point where my credentials were being looked at properly by most people. What's always amused me since in the last 2 nominations of president was the number of staff, secretaries, who come up and say, you should have gotten it farther. Because I was always very aware of staff. I had been aware of it at Fordham. You want something done. When I wanted something from the registrar's office at Fordham as chairman or assistant chairman, I didn't call the registrar's office. I had my secretary call the secretary there, and it got done. I mean, they run the place. So I made it a point, the end of the year party they have for the staff. It used to be on the, and we've gotten away from some Catholic things, it used to be on the eve of Ascension Thursday, because Ascension Thursday was always off. We celebrated all the holy days. So it'd be on the eve, and there'd be a mass. Oh, no. Yeah, there would be a mass. So I took over the mass. And the first year I found out, well, that was the second year I took it over, because the first year I found out that only Joe Doria and the president went to this thing. So I roiled up little things, and the vice presidents got invited. And I had more fun at those meetings. I mean, one night, I guess Joe had gone, and there was a cart of cordials, and somebody was taking it, somebody was cleaning up, and they were going to lock it up. And I said, leave them. Oh, Mr. Doria said, I said, leave them. I said, I'm the vice president, leave them. I said, I will put them away. Well, about 20 people stood around the piano and sang until about 1:30 in the morning. And, it was marvelous. I don't think, maybe 5 people went over and had a drink. I mean, it wasn't, but it was there. That, I think, is important. And it's important to know the people in the college. I took over, I used to say the reunion masses for the classes of 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, the ones I knew, I think was necessary. But there were some fun things. What else?
Oh, okay. Good. No, I'm into this. I am into this. Okay, we're almost down to the end here. Okay, alumni support. What are some of the functions you have as a member of the class of
Very little now, actually.
Any other,
I mean, as I say, I helped organize and run the 87 get-together. I'm not, well, given the number that showed up for my class this year, there were only 6 of us. I was going to say I'm not all that happy with everybody being at the same time sort of thing. May have a point to it. But I have been, I've done everything I could for the alumni while I was AVP, and I knew the people there and became good friends with most of them. One significant thing, if you ever go to the alumni conference room, you ever been in the conference room, 2nd floor? Over at the end, at the east end of the room, there is a needlepoint of the college seal. That's my work. That's one of the contributions I made to the Alumni Association.
Very nice.
So, but, there are things you do, things you can do. I'm not a telephone person. Therefore, I have never, ever done telethon. It's not my thing. So, matter of fact, I used to hate that as AVP. Although he was across the hall, Father Glenn was a telephone person. And I like to see a person that I'm talking to about business, or get the eye contact and judge what's going on. So, but he insisted on the telephone. So, you work with what you got. But, yeah.
Okay, 2 more. Vice presidents, other vice presidents from different departments that you've experienced in your capacity as AVP. Here's some of your impressions of them.
Well, at that point we had Father Heavey, who had been Dean of Students and equivalently AVP, Vice President from 70, 71, maybe even earlier. And then 3 of us were hired at the same time. Kennedy in development, myself, and Barletta. Although Kennedy came about 6 months after Barletta and I. Barletta and I took over on July 1st. Frank and I have always gotten along real well. I mean, in that sense of being friends. And Kennedy, Glenn passed several dossiers around, past the 2 of us. And Kennedy was not on my list, high on my list anyway. He's a nice enough guy, but Ed Heavey and I got along very well. He is a very caring person. Sometimes too much. But in those days, I instituted, and I passed it in front of the president and asked him to join us. The vice presidents gathered, I think it was every week or every other Friday, taking turns in our offices for a couple of drinks, relaxing, and got a lot of stuff done. And I had asked Lynn, I said, we're open to having you join us. We don't want it's not a cabal or anything like that, but we feel we should get to know one another. And you people do it. So we did. And these were the days before too many people were worried about how much you drank before you drove. But, people were careful enough. I mean, it was only maybe 3/4 of an hour. And we talk about this coming up, or, he told me this, how have you guys picked it up, and sort of sharing that sort of thing. So I had fun with them. And these were my vice presidents for the entire time. I mean, there were no other changes. Kennedy left the same time I did. So, there are no other ones. Heavey and I get along on several levels, because being brother Jesuits. And a couple of times I was able to sort of step in and throw some oil on boiling waters. But it went well.
Okay, last question.
How much do I get paid? Go ahead.
Let's see, what's it, $20 an hour?
20. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, 50. Okay. As a member of the St. Peter's community since 1948, what has the St. Peter's experience meant to you, and what would it mean coming from you to a potential student or anybody else working or affiliated with the college?
Okay, several things. One, I think, and maybe this should have come up earlier on other things, there's a certain malaise or unease among the faculty, those caring faculty, because of the bottom students we're getting. We've increased the top from my days, but we've also increased the bottom. And the problem is that they are in class with the others, unless it's structured like math or composition. And it happened, I think, in one or two of the sessions with the president last year, where the students got up and complained that they were being drugged down by this. And I've certainly seen it. I mean, I had a kid last year in 001 in the spring who was taking it for the 4th time and got a WA anyway. I walked out with a WD, I guess, withdrew towards the end. Not interested. I mean, what morale-wise does this mean? The kids who are working, the kids who are doing what they should, who are interested in computers. I really don't deal with the English majors or any of them, but the science people that I see, you can get a damn good education at St. Peter's College. One of the things I like to do with a math major, if we sort of get along, is grab him as an advisee, because I think you got to pick and choose. You got to pick and choose your faculty. And I think I know the faculty who will give a good decision, if possible. You can't always do it. But, take so-and-so rather than, you'll really learn. It'll be harder, but you'll learn. And usually with those kind of kids, that doesn't bother them. It's going to be harder. So I think you could get a very good education. You could still get a very good education. I don't think the college at the caliber it was in '52. At that time, we were getting people into med schools, law schools, and accounting. I mean, we look back over the history of the guys in the 50s and 60s in accountancy, on all of the Cosine and all of that group in the big firms. They're St. Peter's. They're St. Peter's. We may have some, but we'll have to see. I happen to know the only Rhodes Scholar St. Peter's ever had, Judge Stanton, Reginald Stanton. Red was in the society for a year. Well, I guess I knew him for about 9 months before he left. And then over the years, so on. He brought a great honor to the place. And I've had dinner with him and his wife and that sort of thing. Can you still get that kind of an education? Yeah, I think so. But I think we let a few things go, and part of it was my fault. I was trying to clean up other stuff, but to really get somebody in charge of graduate grants and so on. Now we have Dr. Monahan, this sort of thing, and it wasn't being done, and that was one of the things on the list. I mean, you can't do everything all at once, so. But I think we have some kids who are capable. There's some kids who are very capable. But they also have to be challenged. And you're not going to challenge them when half the class is dragging the other half down. And I think that's what's happening frequently. It doesn't happen as much in math, as I say, because they don't make it. I mean, they got to do 001 or 021 or what have you. But history. The honors program siphon off. Okay, what about the other kids in honors? I mean, not in honors. They go in the history class. It could be anything. The mix, it's going to be homogeneous. It's heterogeneous. And I think this is what hurts. Mention Stanley and Livingston, you might not get an answer. But, this on all these things, I think that's the important thing is, to my mind, is for an advisor, get a student, find out what the student really wants to do, and then lead them along the way. I had one advisee last year, still around. I think he thinks more of me as a signer of documents that he needs. I know for a fact if he comes in this year and asks my advice about something, I'm going to refuse to give it to him. I will sign anything he wants me to sign, but I'm not going to give him any advice because he hasn't listened to it in the past. Sorry. I think I do know just a little bit more. Just a little bit. Not about everything, but about some things. So that's it. Okay?
Excellent job.
Very good.
Awesome. Robert, do you have a camera around here? Where's the camera around here? Oh, okay.